Hey everybody, Wednesday James here for another edition of What's Up With That Song Wednesday. Today we're going to talk about a song of mine from many moons ago. We're going to discuss melodrama in your mid-20s. We're going to discuss living in bad neighborhoods. We're going to talk about harmonized guitars. I don't know what else we're going to talk about. We'll see what happens when we get there. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time to talk about my song, Steve. Steve. The song is called Steve. We'll talk about that as we go. So, I'm going to pin this song as being around 2006-ish as being written. I definitely feel, I'm sure that it was written in the row house that I lived in South Philly for about 3 years in the mid-2000s with a rotating cast of other people, including the lady that I was seeing at the time. And then also, for a while, Dan Drago, my best friend, who's currently in Hong Kong, but who's been in Philly besides that. My friend Trevor, my friend Davey, my friend Sarah, who met there and got married. Yay, Davey and Sarah, love them. It was a divey kind of a row house in a not particularly great neighborhood of South Philly, but we were there for a couple good years. And I certainly recall writing this fairly melodramatic, fairly overwrought, maybe a little purple in vibe kind of a tune at a time when the relationship that I was in was not actively ending, although I should note that it did end within the year, I want to say, after this song was written, so it was, kind of on the way. That was a relationship, lovely woman who I wish all the best to, but we had dated for 6 years and probably should have been 3 for both of our sakes, realistically. But you're in your 20s, you don't know any better, and you're dumb, It's your first time through things. I'm in my 40s, I'm still pretty dumb, so who knows? But I know that the writing of the song I don't have a whole lot for. I kind of remember the bedroom that I was in when I wrote it, which was the South Philly bedroom. We had what else do I have for that? So I don't really have much about the actual creation point of the song. I liked fitting in the X-Files rerun because we were watching a lot of X-Files at the time. But certainly this song is very moody, as I tended to be in my 20s, and really not necessarily all that accurate, although being a little bit more alert to my mental health these days than I was then, I do see actually a fair amount of the things I've gone through for years and years and years popping up in there. I see through your disappearing. Wake goes, are you listening? I don't think you hear me. You're like this all the time now. Is a thing. Like I definitely, like most people with mental health issues, I kind of come and I go, but having that kind of assaultive, emotional perspective in the chorus there is very much appropriate, I think, in my I'm learning now to recognize it and try and be better about it, but I wasn't then. I was 25 and stupid, so it was written, again, I want to say 05, 06-ish. I don't have a whole lot of recollection of playing it live very much. Dan Drago, if ever he bothers to see this and has a comment, he may recall better than I do. But it was not a song that I recall being particularly highly played. At the time, he and I were in a band called Confusion About Weather, which is still one of my all-time favorite band names, named by our then bass player's, I want to say, 3-year-old daughter, who drew a picture in school and brought her home and explained that it was called, may have been the older daughter, I can't remember which daughter it was. One of his daughters drew a picture about clouds and different things and said that the picture was called Confusion About Weather, which we just thought was a great name. Not a great band, but a great name. So when that band split and Dan and I went to start to work on making what ended up being the first Sober Cats record, this song was one of the ones we pulled for it. I had forgotten pretty much entirely about this song for, I want to say, 15 years. I was sitting around a couple of weeks ago, 2-3 weeks ago, playing, just like watching TV, strumming a guitar, and I sort of fell into the guitar part of the song, like, oh yeah, this song, I forgot about this song. And then I went and listened to the first Sober Cats record, which Dan and I made on a recording PC that we had built that belonged to my then lady friend, and still, I assume, does, although that was 15 years ago. I imagine that machine is long dead. But we did it in the back room. Once we moved out of that house in South Philly, that row house, the lady in question and I moved to an apartment in West Philly, which is really much more my speed. I'm a West Philly guy at heart. If I'm going to be a Philly guy, I'm a West Philly guy. South Philly's fine. I like it okay. West Philly's where my heart is. But we moved to a block that was not spectacular. It was all right most of the time. We never had any real troubles. But so Dan and I made this record in this tiny little back room, just kind of... one of those things. It was very much listening to a lot of Portishead, listening to a lot of Postal Service, a lot of like trip hop kind of stuff, and drum machines. And we didn't have a drum set or the ability to record a drum set, so we didn't want to do anything live. So it's just a lot of There's a song on that record where for a tuned percussion section, we tuned a banjo to an open chord, smacked it, tuned the next chord, smacked it, tuned the next chord, smacked it. It was just like fucking around. It was really. It was a really fertile time as far as that sort of creative element, and I really miss having the time to spend, hours and hours and hours on these different projects, and I also miss having someone else to do some of the work on it because I'm a lazy, lazy man. And Dan is certainly a much more gifted recording engineer than I am. As you can probably tell. I will say, after rediscovering the song, which I had forgotten completely about, I actually went and listened to the first Sober Cats record, which is on all the streaming services, and I think, mostly I think it's really interesting, and I kind of like a lot of the work we did. I do despise pretty much every second of my voice on that record. Not recorded especially well, not performed especially well. I hate my voice in that album, but the rest of it's pretty good. So I did borrow a number of the arrangement ideas today to re-record it because I thought we had some good stuff there. So some of the arrangement will sound familiar if you know that record. All like three of you who might know that record. But it was definitely fit with the vibe of that time in my life and that rest. So anyway, as we were working on that record in this tiny little back bedroom in his apartment, that was just like littered with instruments all over the place. I mean, it was probably like 10 by 10, 12 by 12 maybe. It was a little room with a recording PC and then just a bunch of shit lying around everywhere. We just kind of like make things happen as we go. So one day we're working, I don't recall if it was on this song or not, we're working one afternoon and suddenly the lady comes running back and says, yo, you guys got to come out front. We came out front to find that someone had been drunk driving, running from the cops up this relatively narrow West Philly street. Not as narrow as South Philly street. South Philly street's like you can touch both sides with your hands. But so this guy had just like ricocheting, bounced his way up and down our street. Didn't hit any of our cars wildly, but had like, hit two cars over here and two cars over here and two cars over here, and then crashed. So we came out, there's like a whole cops and lights and the whole nines, and a bunch of people with like wrecked cars and shit all freaking out. Like, well, that's going to be the end of the session today, I guess. We're not going to do any more work on that. And then a week later, we were back in the studio doing more work, and the lady comes to the back and says, guys, you got to come out front. You got to come out front. We come out, and someone had just been shot in front of our house. So that was the fun of West Philly trying to make music. Fun note, the song This Old Town, which I'll do eventually for one of these Wednesday things, was written in that back room, and probably, I'm almost certain, after the car crashes and gunshot wounds. I think the guy lived. I don't remember. He was gone by the time I got out front, but like there was definitely a shooting on the street, which is always cool. So that first Sober Cats record was a very synth and drum machine and weird layers kind of thing. There might be more of that in our future. in my future. Just as an FYI, if you're paying attention, there may be some stuff to look out for in the next few months. Anyway, why is the song called Steve? The song is called Steve because I should mention that I have known my dear friend Dan Drago since we were both like 14, 15 years old. And we made that record when we were 27-ish. So we're already 12 years into being friends at that stage. And so for years and years and years, whenever I would be asked what something was called, I would say Chuck. It's called Chuck. Why is it called Chuck? I don't know. It just sounds like the right thing to call it. And after, let's call it 12 years of calling everything Chuck, Dan got fairly perturbed with me about calling everything Chuck, which is not unreasonable. And so the response was that I began to call everything Steve instead of Chuck. I should note that I have a brother-in-law named Steve. This song is not in any way about him. I have friends named Steve, not about them either. It's just called Steve because I thought about calling it Chuck, and I thought that Dan might hit me, and so I didn't do it. In like the arm, like we didn't like fight, but you know how boys are, right? If we're gonna quote Christmas Story these days. Anyway, so that's the song Steve, which is a melodramatic breakup song written by someone who was like a year away from actually breaking up with the person that they broke up with. And which was totally mutual and I think pretty agreeable to both parties. I don't think either one of us was terribly upset when we did break up. We both had been kind of unhappy, so it wasn't like a big deal. Anyway, it's a song I had forgotten about and that I think is a little bit immature, but then so am I. So what are you going to do? And I thought that I would bring it out because I haven't played it live in 15 years. I don't recall if I ever played it live, to be honest. I'm sure I did at some point, but I don't remember when. I don't have any recollections of playing it in front of people. I'm sure that I did, but it doesn't stick. And the Sobercats went on to add members and become The Way Home eventually, and The Way Home put a record out that I'm really proud of, and then The Way Home broke up, and then I went and did all the me things that I'm doing now. So here we are. But that first Sobercats record is definitely again, aside from my voice, I love it. I think it's great. I think there's a lot of really fun stuff on there. And then also the singer sucks ass. Anyway. So thank you for stopping by again for What's Up With That Song Wednesday. I hope you have a little more context about the song Steve, if nothing else, why it's called Steve, which is that it's called Steve because it's not called Chuck. So there you go. Answers everything, doesn't it? So without further ado, I present to you a new take on Steve. When you wake up and find me gone, you wonder what you've done. Well, you think that I've been wrong. When you stare out into the sun, I see through you, you're disappearing. Wake up screaming and can't make a sound. Are you listening? I don't think you hear me. Like this all the time now. Every day time's getting shorter, even as the days grow long. There's so little now to report, and even less to bring along. I see through you, you're disappearing. Wake up screaming and can't make a sound. Are you listening? I don't think you hear me. Like it's all the time now. soon this all go away. You'll pack your things and you'll drive away. Sleep on the floor, forget to lock all the doors, and now think of all the times you'd say that I see through you, you're disappearing. Wake up screaming and can't make a sound. Are you listening? I don't think you hear me. You like this all the time now. I see through you, you're disappearing. Wake up screaming and can't make a sound. Are you listening? I don't think you hear me. You like this all the time now. You like this all the time now.